Hey guys, Marco here, and in today's video I will show you some key insights behind one of my most successful Google AdWords campaigns of all time, where for every dollar that we spent, we got around $60 back for one of my Shopify clients. So please stick to the end and you will learn how you can do similar things to your business and really grow your sales and profitability.
I grew tired of that. I grew eyes on my back. They drew iron when I drew rhymes. Now who's firing back? Told myself, keep your mind on them raps. Knowing damn well this shit's stress. Denzel and distress for the Denzel.
Okay guys, so without any further delay, let's have a look at the campaign and see what you can do to get the same or similar results. So here we can see our dashboard. And the campaign I'm actually talking about is this first one right here, where we use the target CPA bid strategy. And you can see here at the very end that our conversion value divided by cost, which is essentially the return on ad spend, is 60.61 for this campaign. So we spent a total of only 833 euros, and we made 1,000 conversions with it at a cost of 81 cents per conversion, and we made a total sales volume of 50,500 euros. And this is a conversion rate of 23% and a click-through rate of 32. Now this is something you cannot just get with ease, right? You cannot achieve this out of nowhere. This is also very hard to achieve with Facebook ads, but I'm going to show you some best practices that enable you to eventually come up with a campaign like this as well. So the first thing, when you create a new campaign and when you get down to the ads level, so let's just go here and create a new campaign without a goal. Let's say you want to get website visits, and for now let's just use the website of my Google AdWords training program as a reference. The thing that you want to keep in mind is that when you create an ad, and this is the important part, I'm just setting up some random numbers here so that we can continue. Save and continue. When you create the ad, and this is where it gets important, you need to keep in mind that your ads should be as different as possible. So when you create two different ads, which I definitely recommend, it's super important that you are not just switching minor things. Like a lot of people, when they do a split test, they create one ad and then they create a second ad where they just exchange some words, or they just they put the end of the sentence in the beginning or something like this. But this is not what you want to do. In order to get maximum results and to really find out what works best, you need to make your ads as different as you possibly can. So when I create a new ad, for example, let's say I go with, like I said, eCom PPC Academy, just for reference, and then I say something like, let's say we stick to the example of eCom PPC Academy. Learn AdWords for Shopify. Get a head start today, right? This would be a valid headline for my product, in this case my e-commerce, my AdWords training program for e-commerce. But of course it also works with any physical product, just like the one in the campaign I showed you. The thing here is that what many people do now when they hear, oh, I have to do a split test, they just put, for example, the and here in the beginning, and they say, hey, get a head start today, learn AdWords for Shopify. And then in the description something like, over 100 students are enjoying insider AdWords knowledge for their businesses. This is just some demo stuff I just made up right now. By the way, here the few things that you can see here are some of my call outs that I defined for this campaign, and the sports and outdoors also just a reference. So this is a typical AdWords ad. Like, I didn't think about it that much, it just came out of my head. What you would do now, if you really say that this is your ad, for example, if we just assume that this is your ad, we would hit done, and then when we create a new ad, we want to do something totally different. Like, we don't want to make minor changes. We would say something like, tired of not getting sales, join our Elite AdWords Academy, or something like this, right? Tired of not getting sales, join our Elite AdWords Academy. And then in the description something totally different as well. Like, it's totally different to the first ad. And the point here is that you want to find out which of these ads works better. And you don't want to find out which of these word combinations or which of these orders works better. You want to create two totally different ads from the ground off. And this helps you to really identify the right angle. So for the campaign that I just showed you, we did exactly this. In fact, I came up with 4 different ads, and all 4 were entirely different. So whenever I created a new ad, I was starting from 0 again. I was talking about the product, then I was talking about the benefits, features, whatever. And in the end, I saw that 2 of these ads worked very, very good. I continued with these 2. Then I realized that one of them works actually best. I eliminated the second one and created another one. So you should constantly test your ads, but the key point here is that you should keep them as different as you possibly can. This is a very typical mistake that I see. If you avoid this mistake and if you keep your ads as separated and as different as possible in the beginning to really identify which one gets you better results, this will absolutely help you create a super profitable and powerful campaign. Okay, so the second best practice that I use in this super powerful campaign is really important as well. And this is to start with super profitable, super promising keywords that do not necessarily have a high volume. So I see a lot of people start with super general keywords. They keep them broad match, which means that you can trigger all kind of search queries, even though they might be totally unrelated. And they do this because this, of course, brings you the highest amount of searches. But this doesn't mean that these searches are also the ones that are most beneficial to your business. Let's assume, and this time I will go back to a physical product again. Let's assume you're in the space, I don't know, let's say you're in the fishing space and you have, you sell some fishing gear or something like that, right? So you sell something like this. And this is, by the way, the new keyword planner. It looks a little bit different than you're probably used to, but you will realize that it's actually pretty good, and I actually really like it. So you will definitely get used to it. Let me quickly change this here to English, and here you can see now all kind of keyword ideas. You will see them all in one big table, which I really like, and I like to sort them by average monthly searches. And here comes the second part. I want to actually use keywords that are super related to my ad, or I want to make an ad that is super related to my keywords. So this means that I want to have the exact word in my ad again. So I'm hitting Control F and I'm looking for gear, and now I'm only including the keywords that have gear in it and that are of course still related to fishing. So if we would sell fly fishing stuff, but I think this is probably not the best example right here, I could include this as well. Fly fishing gear, fishing rain gear, kayak fishing gear, cheap fishing gear. This is probably something we might target if we're actually relatively cheap, because else it wouldn't make sense. People would just leave our site. Fishing gear near me is probably not the best one to target. Cat fishing gear, well, depends of course on the saltwater fishing gear. Let's hit this one here. Free fishing gear doesn't make sense. Again, discount fishing gear could be helpful. Fishing gear for sale, we're just scanning through it. So we found quite some keywords. Best fishing gear, let's just include this as well. So now we have 6 keywords, which isn't that much, but of course I'm just showing you something here. And in fact, you could also go you could include a little more things. And of course, if you really know a little more about the product than I do now, you could also go with something like fishing hook or stuff like that. But the point is that you use keywords that are very closely related, that all have, in this case, the word gear and some sort of fishing in it, because if you create an ad now, this ad will be super targeted to your keywords, and people who see this ad will absolutely love to click it to buy your products. So we have 6 keywords now. We will add it to our plan, and we will check the plan overview. So you saw that I don't have too many impressions every week that I can get with this. We can have a look actually and see here. This isn't too accurate, but it gives you a rough estimate of what you can actually hit with this combination. Let's have another look at this. Or wait a second. Let's check if this actually makes sense. Okay, cost so impressions. Right, so typically you would say, hey, but I only got 10,000 impressions for this keyword, 6,000 for this one, and 1,000 for this. Yes, I know these are all not really huge keywords, but if you use all of them and they are super relevant, you make sure that you're just getting the best traffic that you possibly can, and then you can worry about scaling later on. So when I look to my to the campaign I just showed you, this is exactly what I did as well. So when I came up with, like I said in the beginning, the two, or in this case, the 4 super different ads and the keywords that are heavily related to our product. I didn't look at anything else. Like, I know it's super tempting that when there are a lot of keywords that you just include all of them as soon as they are somewhat related to your product. But in this first step, you should really focus on just getting the best keywords that you can. So you should really get the best keywords. You should focus on the keywords that have your main keyword in them, that have that somehow have your product name in them, so that you can make sure you are just advertising for things that are just like your product. Because the worst thing that could happen is that you have an ad that is talking about something somewhat related to your product, people click it, and then they realize it's just totally different. So sometimes the differences are very small, and you need to make sure that you're actually hitting the nail on the head and that you're really going with the most relevant and the most fitting keywords for your campaign. The next tip is something that many people just miss entirely, and this is to actually see what your traffic does in some kind of analytics software, like for example Google Analytics, Hotjar, Lucky Orange, or whatever. You can see here the analytics dashboard of one of my clients where we hit $63,000 in revenue in the last 28 days with a conversion rate of 3.25%, which is pretty okay. And now here comes the super important part. You want to go to the acquisition tab right here. Then you will go down to AdWords and hit campaigns. And now when it's loading, you will realize that you can actually see what the traffic that comes from AdWords to your website actually does on your website. So here you can see our different campaign names. You can see the number of clicks, you can see the cost, and this is, I think again, this is again for the last 7 days and not for the last 28 days. So in the last 7 days, we spent $1,500 on this account with an average CPC of $2.36 because it's a very competitive industry actually. And here we can see how healthy the traffic basically is. So for example, this campaign here brought us 15 clicks, but in this case, the pages per session were actually 0, which means here was probably some kind of tracking mistake or some kind of tracking error. But you can see here at the top where we have 500 clicks, we have 3 pages per session, and our bounce rate is also relatively low considering the industry. So you can see here, this traffic is super healthy. If someone who comes from AdWords visits an average of 3 pages on your website, this means that your ad was super relevant to your to the user, and that your landing page is super relevant to the ad. Now this is something many people just don't have a look at. So they just do their AdWords campaigns and they see, oh, I get pretty cheap clicks, I get a good click-through rate, but somehow I got no conversions. And one of the best ways to identify why you're actually not getting that good conversions is to have a look at Google Analytics and see what's happening behind the scenes. Like, how is the traffic behaving on your site instead of how is the traffic behaving on AdWords. Because yes, AdWords can show you how well you're actually attracting this traffic, but it won't show you really what the traffic is doing on your site and why it's probably not converting. You see this, you know this from yourself. When you get traffic to your site which doesn't buy anything, you are asking yourself what you're doing wrong, because your campaigns all look good, especially when you're also doing this on Facebook ads. But in fact, what you need to really keep an eye on is the stats behind the scenes on Analytics or Hotjar or whatever, and see whether the traffic is actually behaving well. If you would see something like just 0.2 or 1.02 pages per sessions or so, which means that basically everyone is just leaving immediately after the first page. And you can also check the site usage tab right here, and you can check how long they actually, how much time they actually spend on the site. You can see here for us it's 1 minute and 43 seconds on average, which is really, really good. But if you only have like 5 seconds, then of course this indicates that your ad is not going very well with your landing page. So keep this in mind. This is something you should absolutely do constantly whenever you're running a campaign, whether it's AdWords or Facebook ads actually. But if you do this from the beginning on, it can actually save you a lot of money, and can really direct you to the most profitable campaigns, because you are getting rid of all this useless traffic immediately, and you make sure that you only go with the very best one. Okay guys, I really hope that you could learn something here today. If you want to learn more about Google AdWords for Shopify, for e-commerce, and how to really grow your sales, please check the link in the description for the eCom PPC Academy, which helped over 100 students already to really and drastically increase their sales. We are currently still running a promotion, so you will probably still find the course at a pretty good 50% discount. Also, thanks for watching. Please leave a like if you enjoyed this video. Please comment if you have any questions, and of course subscribe for more e-commerce and dropshipping and marketing information. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.